Hey, you guys. Today I'm excited because I'm joined by my good friend and co-host of The Ramsey Show, partner in crime when it comes to money and marriage, our event, Dr. John Delony.
What's up?
How are you?
Good.
Good.
You?
Welcome back to the Rich with Cruze world. I know
one
you
of my
love
favorite
when you come
places to
here.
be.
It is. It's all happy and joyful.
It's so happy and
so
joyful.
great. It's so great. Okay, so if you're new around here, John and I, we're both married, not to each other, but we are very passionate about helping couples when it comes to their marriage, when it comes to them growing emotionally and financially. And statistically, money remains one of the number one causes of divorce in America today. And we want to help when it comes to the subject. So we've done Money and Marriage a few times, the event. We had one huge event last year, which was so incredible. And so we actually had a lot of questions from the audience during that event that we were answering. And we didn't get to all of them because there were a lot of questions. So John, got a little surprise for you.
Okay. Oh, we're taking live questions.
We're going to take some live questions.
All right,
So these
take
were
live
actual questions from those of you that came to our Money and Marriage event last year, and questions we had never answered from stage.
Let's do it.
Because we didn't have time. So we're going to do this. And if you have questions as you're watching this and you're thinking, I may want this answered, drop in the comment section because we may do another video, come back around and answer more questions. So here we
Go for it.
I'll let you.
You do it.
No.
Ladies first.
No, guest first. I'm a selfless host.
All right, let's see here. What is the best approach if my spouse has a serious spending problem? Did Winston send that? I've tried to start the conversation before, but they get defensive, and I eventually give up. Should we go to counseling?
Well, I think every couple should go to some level of counseling and therapy in general. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like if one spouse has something that's obvious, maybe it's a spending problem, I feel like sometimes the other spouse can feel accusatory and they don't respond well.
Right.
But even if the spouse isn't accusatory and genuinely wants to know and the other spouse still gets defensive, what do they do?
Often the most important deal here is when somebody gets defensive, instead of thinking that there's something wrong with them,
Yeah.
I want to think, what have I done to set them off, right? What can I own? Because I can't control what they're doing. I can get mad and get frustrated, but at least I want to look in the mirror real quick and say, did I just start throwing grenades? And so a good way is, oh my God, what did you buy this week on Amazon? I've just thrown a grenade and you have to fight me back, right? I've started a fight and you got to start fighting me back.
Yep.
Or, oh my gosh, why did you spend so much money? You see how little I spent last month and you went, now we're in a fight, right? There's something different about, and I always tell couples, use I when you're entering into a problem. I don't feel safe with how you spend money.
Yep.
Or even more importantly, I don't feel safe because every month we make a plan. We end up spending way too much money. You agree on a budget, it goes way over. I don't feel okay. Now what you've done, that's an invitation. It's not a punch.
Yep.
You're saying, hey, will you help me?
Yeah,
Right?
that's good.
And that's a different way into the conversation. If they then respond to, I don't care how you feel. I'm buying these shoes or this car or I'm getting my truck jacked up or whatever the thing is. Now you've got somebody who looks at you and says, I don't care what you need. I don't care what you feel like. I don't care what you think. I'm going to do what I want to do. Yeah, your relationship's got some major issues.
And I feel like when you approach a spouse, the old Ted Lasso, don't be judgmental, be curious.
Yeah.
But that idea of be curious, ask questions.
What's this solving in your life?
Yes, in an authentic, real way of wanting to understand them and put yourself in their shoes. And usually that somewhat level of humility helps too. But okay, so good. What's one thing that your spouse has taught you or made you better at over time? Oh man, let's think.
My wife has taught me a lot. So taught me about the importance of, I wouldn't have gone to grad school if it wasn't for my wife. I thought I knew everything at 24. I thought I knew everything.
No, not you, John.
Yeah. And she's taught me the importance of reality. And I don't mean that in a funny way, but I tend to think, hey, it's 8:58 and my meeting starts at 9 and it's 30 minutes away. I still have time to shower. And after I get out of the shower, I'm going to go ahead and iron my clothes. And then I'm going to go mow the yard real quick. And then by the time I get halfway through mowing, it's 11:45 and I'm super mad at time, right? Not at me. So what she has taught me to do, I guess, is the best way is to count the cost, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to do X and Y and Z, that's cool. We don't have houses for this price in this market, in this location.
Yep.
It's not real.
Yep.
And I get mad. It's just not real. So let's
Yeah.
look over here, right? So I think it's counting the cost. Those two things are big.
That's good. That's good. I would say even more recently, Winston's perspective on just like parts of life, but there's like this kind of element of like everything belongs. So whether it's beautiful, whether it's hard, whether it's suffering or it's a gift, like everything, there's this comfortability he has in life where I find I want to avoid the hard or the struggle or whatever, right? And I've realized that more when I'm mirrored against him, where he's so, I don't even think the confident is the word. It's a comfortability with all of life. And that's been huge for me, where I've like realized that. And I'm like, oh man, I could do better at that. It all belongs.
All belongs.
It all belongs.
That's a good word. It's a good word.
I don't know.
My husband spends hours on the toilet scrolling through reels. Help. Oof. I have no experience with this at all. I do. It could be any number of things. I know in my house and with the men I talk to, that's the only place you can go where you don't feel like you're doing something wrong. You don't feel like somebody has a problem with you. You don't feel like somebody's demanding something from you. It's a place where you can just go hide and everybody will leave you alone, right? That's not always a good thing, right? It's a place to escape. It can be a Xanax too, right? A place to avoid, to numb out. But that's the most common thing.
Yeah.
So you can talk about it directly. The second thing is you can look in the mirror and ask, like, are we creating a world where my husband feels like he has to escape from it, right? Maybe not. After a 12-hour day, I know home has been wild too, but after a 12-hour day, he's exhausted. Is there a way that we can connect before he feels like he's just got to go hide from his family, right?
Yep.
And then the bigger question Sheila and I have asked before in our house is, what do we want this house to feel like when you get home? And what do we want this house to feel like when she gets home? And how do we build that? And the more we've worked on that solution, my feeling like I need to get out of here, out of my own house, has really diminished. What do you think?
Well, it's nice that dads can escape. Moms,
here we go.
Nowhere,
Here
everywhere.
we go.
They're everywhere. They're
patriarchy.
everywhere.
Here.
All right, next. Money stress is still one of the leading causes of divorce. Why do you think that is? And what is the most powerful way to fight against it?
What do you think?
Yeah, I could see it being for sure in the top because I think money plays a role in our life, that it is a tool to help enhance our life. And when our life and our marriage and things are at a tension point, money naturally is going to be. Because if everything else, if other decisions in our life, it's feeling like it's just tension filled, and money is the avenue.
Oh, it doesn't enhance. It's like it's an amplifier of what already is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably didn't explain that well. That's one of the reasons I think. I think the other is that we're really bad at communicating about it because I think it can be a really sensitive subject. And so when you feel like, oh no, this is the way I feel like money should work, or how I see money, my habits around money, my knee-jerk reaction of how to do this with money is this way and yours is this way, that feels so foreign to me. And if I don't have the tools and the capability to even communicate that, naturally that's going to cause stress and tension. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you
and
can.
How opposite we are.
We talk a lot about. You can tell a lot about somebody by their calendar and their checking account.
Yes.
And there's something very personal about what I think has enough value for me to part with my money, right? And when that comes into conflict and you don't have the tools how to talk about it, how do we align goals? My mom did it this way. Well, my dad didn't do it this way, so I'm going to do it this way.
Yep.
It just throws it all into a big pot.
Yep.
Right? And then you've got granddad telling you, if you rent, you're an idiot. And this guy saying, well, you got to drive a new car. And you have so many other voices too. And it just creates chaos.
Yeah, and when it's mismanaged money, which when we look at the stats, sadly, that is so common in our world today, then there's usually less of it. So there's not a lot of margin. And so when you're stressed about having to literally pay the rent or the mortgage, put food on the table, that's going to cause a level of stress. And again, whether it amplifies everything or it's the first indicator that everything else, well, we can't do this, then we can't do that because of money is tight, then our life doesn't look like the way we should.
And there's a lot of shame around that, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to get my kid these shoes, and because the bonus didn't come through or my hours got cut, I can't.
Yep.
What does that say about me?
Yeah, and
And
who I
then
am.
spouse gets like, oh, I got the new whatever Taylor Swift t-shirt or whatever. I don't know, that's what she's always buying. But like I got the new thing, man, that shame plus that lack, that scarcity, that's just combustible, right?
Crazy. Yeah. All right, last one. We'll do one more.
I know you recommend using every dollar for a monthly budget with your spouse, but I hate numbers and my wife is naturally good at them. Can she take the lead on that and just fill me in?
Yeah, I would say to a degree, yes. I mean, I always want you guys to be a team, but there's always going to be one person who's better at it. In our house, it's Winston. Like, he naturally loves doing that. And we, like, sit down and we look at last year, we look at this coming year, and he, like, writes down the trips we want to go on, any purchases we have, any goals we have. I mean, like, he, like, goes through.
What's it all going to cost?
And then he does the Excel, and he just kind of, and I'm like, go for it. You just, you tell me what to do. So naturally, someone's going to lead it because they enjoy it more than the other spouse. And I think that's great. But the whole idea of like, oh, she's just going to hand it to me and that's going to be it. No, I want you to be part of the discussion because I don't want her to feel like she's on an island and isolated doing it by herself, that she's a teammate. But yeah, I think it's a very natural thing to say one of you is going to be more excited and better at it and take the lead on it than someone else.
I also want you to lean into the things in your marriage that have to get done, that are an important part of a relationship, and you say, oh, I hate doing that part. That's not always a good excuse. We've talked about this privately before, but I've just sat with people and their spouses passed away. And they have a very hollowed out look and they ask the same question. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know where the money is. I don't even know who is our electrical company is. I don't know anything. And so even if you hate it, that's not a license to just do nothing, right? That's a license. That's a signal to you. I'm going to have to dig in and learn at least some of this.
Yes.
You take the lead. You're the pitcher on the team. I play outfield, but center field still is an important role.
Right.
You're throwing every pitch, but I got to be back there because the ball may get hit, right?
Yeah.
If you ever have something in your marriage, you're like, that's actually something you got to lean into and head towards, not away from.
And John, honestly, Winston and I had this conversation. It was probably maybe a year or two ago, but I ended up looking up and being like, I have no idea what is direct deposit. I don't know what bills he like physically opens and pays, or which ones go out, or when to do this, or when to do. Oh yeah, I mean, I looked up because he just pays everything, right? He does it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I teach this every day, but literally, if something happened to him, I'm like, I don't know if I have a list of like what gets paid when and all of it. So I made him like list everything out. I mean, even down to like things like the oil change. He's like, you need to change the oil when the car comes out. Yeah, he like, it's like all of this. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Because it is helpful because you can get in a pattern and a rhythm that, you look up and you're like, we're on the same team and all of it. But even the tactical side of money, you guys, be in the know on both of you. Passwords, accounts, I mean, all of it. Yeah.
I remember sitting with a couple who the husband had passed away, and it was the older couple. And he had taken care of all the banking stuff. He was the only name on the account. Inside that account, she could see it, how much money was in there. And they said, after we get the death certificate, after we get this, after we get
They had to
this,
go through everything.
then we'll be able to release this money to you. And she looked at me and said, I have to get groceries. And it was so scary because there's all the money, and it is technically yours, just not yet.
Not yet.
And nobody knew how to do any of it, right?
Oh, it's so crazy.
And so it's just the important, and it's not always somebody died. It's that sense of that gnawing thing in the back, like, I don't know. You feel like you're losing control of your own household.
Yes.
Or you feel like you're living in somebody else's house, right?
Yes.
And so there's just something settling about, I don't love numbers, but I know how to do them when I need to.
Yes,
right?
I know.
I think that's important.
And it is funny, though. I'm like, and for those of you that are married, or maybe you have a roommate that, like, is good at stuff and you guys kind of tag team. But I just think about even us. I'm like, there's stuff that I do that Winston would have no idea. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, I dropped the ball. And even 2 days ago, we had all this snow in Nashville. I'm like reading. He walks into our room. He was like, what noise is that? And I was like, I don't hear a noise. He's like, Rachel, I hear, oh gosh, the faucet. And he like ran outside and it froze, but he was hearing the water, that linking in the, I don't know, all of that. I was like, oh dear Lord, if that was just me, it would have been flooded. I would have no clue. I wouldn't have even known there was a noise.
But on the other side, I called my wife today. I texted her and said, call me. And she called and said, what's up? And I told my wife, I said, hey, I know this week has been really hard and you've carried all of it, right? I've been in a house full of kids. All the dogs have to be inside. There's chaos. The food has just magically appeared when I got home. It hasn't magically appeared. I know she took care of all of that. And I know intellectually, I think I kind of know what, I have no idea what she's been through.
Yep.
Violin practice, all of it, right? Here's the deal. Like, at least know about each other's worlds. It's just so important.
Yes, and be thankful and know. Yeah, so great. Well, you guys, I encourage you, if you are married out there, you want to better your marriage, come hang out with us in Nashville this October, because we are talking about the real stuff, you guys, everything from communication and budgeting, intimacy, all of this. But this October, we are doing another money and marriage getaway here in Nashville. Come hang out with me and John. The last event we did, which was the first big weekend event, we had so much fun. We loved it. So if you want tickets, go to ramseysolutions.com/marriage to claim your spot. Well, John, thanks again for joining me. And if you guys want to check out more of what he's doing, make sure you go to the Dr. Don Delony Show here on YouTube and podcast. He's on all the socials. And I know you guys love seeing Dr. John Delony here on my show. And so he's been on other episodes. So I'll make sure to put those videos in the description. And as always, you guys, remember to take control of your money and create a life you love.